Hi, Father. How can a mother who sees her teenage daughter's unhappiness due to having left the church help her find this happiness she once had? Blessings from Pauline. Now, that's, I'm sure, a very, very common form of suffering many of our viewers have.
Yeah, no, that's a very healthy form of suffering, which comes out of love, the very kind that we were just talking about with respect to God. Of course, in this case, Pauline, you're or maybe someone you know is suffering because of the teenage daughter leaving the church and separating herself from God. The one thing I would counsel on, first of all, that suffering is legitimate. Please offer that up to God and keep praying for your daughter. God has a lot of tools in his providential toolbox there, and there are many ways in which he can call your daughter back. Sometimes it takes a long time, because remember, God's not going to interfere with her free will, right? He's not going to do something like, come in a miraculous moment and go, Pauline, you're being ridiculous. Because, of course, if that curbed her free will, then it would be contrary to God's own plan. He wants us to choose him. That's where our love will become authenticated. So the main thing then that we have to do is let God do it his way. Don't do what I used to call the old Spitzerian prayer, right? The old Spitzerian prayer kind of goes like this. Dear God, my daughter is kind of leaving the church. Now, I just outlined a set of actions for you that could really help you to get her back into the church. And if you don't mind, I also took the liberty of putting together a little timetable for you so you could see how to do this in as expeditious a fashion as possible. Yours truly, Bob, right? So, I mean, if we do something like that, all I can tell you is thank God that God doesn't follow our advice, because he's got to protect her freedom. He's got to look out for her salvation. He is going to look out for her salvation because he loves her and because you're praying for her. The main thing is you got to kind of let him do things his way from his providential toolbox. Now, the third thing, just to say it, is there are some things you can do, but you can't push too hard. I'm telling you, if you push hard, they're going to push back, because it becomes then a contest of the will for them. And part of the rebellion is to let them go through their contest of the will stage. Sometimes, of course, if you just give little things and just say, I read an article, you might be interested. They might roll their eyes, or you might get something off, EWTN website or off the the Magis Center website.
Right.
Fine. You might just give her that, but unobtrusively. Whatever you do, don't create a contest of the will with her, because I'm telling you, if they're going through that stage in their lives, they're going to push back. Here's an article I thought might interest you. Even if she rolls her eyes, she's not going to take offense at it. But if you say must, should, going to hell if you don't, I mean, right? I mean, the will wall is going to go up, and you're not going to make any progress. But little hints, little articles, little turns of phrase, little manifestations of love, which are really important, that you keep reaching out to her in love, even though she's rejecting your faith. Even if she wants a contest of the will, don't do it.
Right.
Just keep loving her and keep affirming not what she's doing, but the goodness that she's called to through Christ, which is her salvation in the church.
And one of the things many a times we find as parents is that, though our opinion doesn't carry a lot of weight, if there are peers or even other relatives, sometimes uncles or aunts, sometimes their perspectives can be presented in such a way that your own children can be a little more open to what their perspective is than your own. Like you said, that kind of initial wall that goes up with the idea like, well, you're not going to tell me what to do, etc., and to dig into that kind of relationship.
Oh yeah, and sometimes the article might just be something that's not on the part about, going to church. You just might say, hey, look, I was on the EWTN website and I saw this interesting article on science in the Shroud of Turin or something. Or, I was at the Magis Center website and I saw this interesting article on near-death experiences, or, on the Shroud of Turin or something. Anything that brings the reality of God or the reality of Jesus, closer to them. Those things are very unobtrusive. It's just like, do you find this interesting? And it looks like kind of an interesting article, and it doesn't look like you're pushing the church on them. I'm telling you, that's the back door in. And sometimes you would be utterly shocked. All a friend has to do is say something like in 2 or 3 sentences, which you've been sort of saying for 100 years,
Right, exactly.
and they'll come back and say, I just had this insight, and you don't say anything like I told you so. Just
Exactly.
say, thank you, Lord.
What have I been
Lord,
saying?
Lord.
Right. I've been saying that forever.
Exactly.